The asters burn with the dim glow of velvet ribbons, then the chrysanthemums a faded northern shade of yellow. It was All Saints' Day, but we had nowhere to go. Our dead don't dwell in this country. They pitched their tents in other dead men's memories in the fruits of hawthorn and lead. It had been raining for a week. Raindrops marched into the earth like Chinese warriors with rigid faces. Mountain streams lay on their backs, greedily lapping up water and October, and the clay shaped ever more perfect forms. We had nowhere to go, although the day was empty like a sleeve buoyed by the wind. Cemeteries swarmed with elegant unseen guests, like a ballroom at dawn when dreams pale. Our dead don't live in this country. They've been traveling for years. The address they give on yellow postcards can't be read, and the nations engraved on the stamps have long since ceased to exist.
This poem is written by someone in a home country, possibly Poland, about soldiers who have died in a war in another country. The reader does not know the exact location, but does know this country has an autumn season. The fall flowers are in bloom, and is a more northern location because they are
a faded shade of yellow.
In the second stanza, the poem reads,
It was All Saints' Day, but we had nowhere to go.
All Saints' Day is a celebration of those who have passed. People in the home country do not feel they can celebrate All Saints' Day because their soldiers were killed in another country, so there is no grave to visit or honor. Then the poem reads,
Our dead don't dwell in this country. They pitched their tents in other dead men's memories in the fruits of hawthorn and lead.
This statement confirms that these dead soldiers are not buried in their home country. They are probably buried on the battlefield because of the reference to hawthorn and lead, meaning earth and bullets. The
yellow postcards
refer to the last correspondence the family received from the soldiers. These postcards are old and yellow, faded to the point they can't even be read. It happened so long ago. The reference to the nations could be referring to countries that were lost when the war was over and were merged into something else. This poem answers the question because it deals with both good and bad. The soldiers are dead and no longer with the loved ones, so this is a bad thing, but the dead soldier will always be remembered and honored, which is a good thing.
The 30s can be read one of two ways. The first way is read as follows.
The 30s. I don't exist, yet grass grows. A girl eats strawberry ice cream. Someone listens to Schumann. Mad, ruined Schumann. I don't exist, yet how fortunate I can hear everything.
When it is read this way, it means the boy is invisible in the world. The 1930s was a tough period because the Depression occurred during this time and people had to deal with the Nazi soldiers. No one recognizes him in society and they ignore him. The world is going on around him. This is proven when it says,
I don't exist, yet grass grows. A girl eats strawberry ice cream. Someone listens to Schumann. Mad, ruined Schumann.
The boy can watch the world without really being a part of it. The poem reads,
Someone listens to Schumann. Mad, ruined Schumann.
Horst Schumann was a Nazi doctor who performed cruel experiments on living people. In one of his experiments, he put people under two X-ray machines and pointed the X-rays at their organs. After several minutes of being under the machine, the people would die or be killed by poisonous gas because the result would be so bad. The boy recognizes that the things like this are happening in the world, so he is glad that he is just an observer and not actually part of the world. By being an observer and being invisible, he can avoid most of the hardships that occur to people, and he feels lucky about this.
The second reading of the poem, The 30s, is as follows. The 30s. I don't exist yet. Grass grows. A girl eats strawberry ice cream. Someone listens to Schumann. Mad, ruined Schumann. I don't exist yet. How fortunate I can hear everything.
This means that the boy isn't born yet, and he has a hope for a good life when he is born. He is overlooking the world and what is happening.
He thinks the people are happy because the girl is eating ice cream and someone is listening to music.
A girl eating ice cream is a good thing because the girl is happy eating ice cream. Music also makes people happy. Robert Schumann was a classical musician, music critic, and composer. Schumann became mad when he was not recognized as a musician like his wife was and when he injured his hand. Later on in his life, he attempted suicide. The boy doesn't exist yet, so he can hear everything that is happening and he can be prepared for what is going to happen in the world. He can learn from what he sees so that he can have the best life possible. Punctuation plays a huge role in this poem. The only punctuation in this poem is the line that reads,
Mad, ruined Schumann.
When the poem is read in two different ways, the poem answers the question that there is both bad and good and hope and doubt occurring. In the first way, there are bad things happening in the world, but the boy isn't part of the bad, so that is good. In the second way, there is both doubt and hope, because the boy is not born yet, so by observing the world, he sees a lot of the good things happening, but he also sees that there are bad things too. Bent under burdens which sometimes can be seen and sometimes can't, they trudge through mud or desert sands, hunched, hungry, silent men in heavy jackets, dressed for all seasons, old women with crumpled faces, clutching something, a child, the family lamp, the last loaf of bread. It could be Bosnia today, Poland in September 39, France 8 months later, Germany in 45, Somalia, Afghanistan, Egypt. There's always a wagon or at least a wheelbarrow full of treasures, a quilt, a silver cup, the fading scent of home, a car out of gas, marooned in a ditch, a horse soon left behind, snow, a lot of snow, too much sun, too much rain. And always that special slouch, as if leaning towards another, better planet with less ambitious generals, less snow, less wind, fewer cannons, less history. Alas, there's no such planet, just that slouch. Shuffling their feet, they move slowly, very slowly, towards the country of nowhere, and the city of no one on the river of never.
This poem relates to war and what people's lives are like during war. There are always refugees involved with war. They are the people who have to leave their homes. The poem reads,
Bent under burdens which sometimes can be seen and sometimes can't.
This means that people are under a lot of stress during wartime. Some of these burdens are the obvious ones you can see, like traveling with everything they own, being kicked out of their homes they've known for their whole lives, and others that you can't see, like trying to find some place to go, something to do, or how they're going to take care of a family without a roof over their heads. Everyone has their own responsibility, and sometimes those responsibilities are too much for one person to handle, and they need help. The poem reads,
They trudge through mud or desert sand, hunched, hungry, silent men in heavy jackets, dressed for all 4 seasons, old women with crumpled faces, clutching something, a child, the family lamp, the last loaf of bread.
Refugees have to wear all the clothes they want to take with them so they can have their hands free for other things, and they carry whatever they can. The next stanza lists all different wars and says that everything is always the same for the refugees, regardless of what the battle is over. But then the poem reads,
There's always a wagon, or at least a wheelbarrow full of treasures, a quilt, a silver cup, the fading scent of home.
This passage tells us that the people take whatever they can from home that will remind them of the home they are leaving behind. Sometimes it might not be a practical item, but mentally the item is a necessity for their survival. The people have to have something from home. The reference to the weather recognizes that these people have no roof over their heads any longer. They have to live outside, and whatever the weather is, it will seem extreme because they have nowhere to escape to.
The special slouch
means the people are hoping for something better. They dream of a world without war and without men driven by power. Then the poem reads,
Shuffling their feet, they move slowly, very slowly, towards the country of nowhere and the city of no one on the river of never.
The author believes there is no hope for these people. He thinks the world will not change, so there really is nowhere for them to go. This poem answers the question of what poetry does. Hope and doubt are both used in this poem. The people doubt that life will get better during war because all they have been faced with is hardship. But then the poem has hope when it talks about a wheelbarrow full of treasures and the special slouch. People have to have hope that life will be better in order to make it through the hardships they encounter.